It was meant to be merely another soft-focus spot for TLC, Cody, Robyn, and children, enjoying lunch together in the garden. But what happened that afternoon never saw the light of day. When the cameras turned off, everything changed. Welcome back to Reality Recap. I'm Anya. If you have not yet, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button and leave a comment with the moment you finally gave up on Kody Brown. Now, let's get into what actually happened. The garden shoot was intended to thaw public opinion, to gloss over the escalating tension fans had been feeling between the members of the Brown family. But instead, it busted it all wide open. Dayton, Robyn's eldest, had never felt comfortable on camera, and that day he reached his breaking point. He wouldn't put on the mic, pacing, fretting, and visibly upset. As the cameraman leaned his lens towards Dayton, he snapped. "Just gently," he snapped. "You're not shooting me anymore. She's being poisoned by you. We all are." The words were raw and unfiltered. Then he rushed. In the ensuing chaos, a crew member fell to the ground. There was blood, screaming, and Cody, instead of diffusing the situation, stormed away, not to defend his son, but to berate the crew. That was when it all fell apart. TLC executives were in full-blown crisis mode within hours of the garden shoot catastrophe. They had an emergency meeting behind closed doors in their Burbank headquarters. Damage control was off the table. So were second chances. Julia Wright, the longtime executive producer of Sister Wives, didn't hold back. "We're done, Cody," she said bluntly. "We're not building this show around your collapsing ego anymore. One of our crew is in the hospital. You've turned this family into a battlefield." And just like that, Kody Brown, the once iconic face of Sister Wives, was cut off. Back in Flagstaff, Cody remained immobile in his home office, walls still filled with old family photographs, pictures that no longer existed. The leather furniture that had been purchased to impress now simply appeared to be clutter. He didn't budge for hours. He didn't even blink. Robyn caught him slumped over in his chair late that evening, half a whiskey bottle beside him, coming apart. His jaw was strained so hard that he appeared to be grinding his teeth merely to keep the tears from falling. "They killed me," he hissed, eyes red and crazed. "They murdered my legacy." But this time Robyn did not comfort him. She stood there, arms folded, voice gentle but frosty. "Cody, you ruined your legacy." It was the first time she had ever addressed him in such a manner, and it would be the last time she ever addressed him as his equal. "Dayton and I are leaving. We're going to St. George. Don't call, don't follow, and don't try to make this your redemption arc." Her words didn't shake him, at least not on the surface. Cody jumped to his feet, eyes wild, insisting on whether or not she was betraying him. She said nothing. She didn't need to. Robyn, the sole wife who remained when the rest departed, was finally departing as well. And she was taking her son, the one person Cody had completely failed, along with her. In that instant, everything's different. Cody was no longer the family man. He was just a man, alone, stuck in the wreckage he had caused. Meri Brown had waited more than 10 years to be heard, to play the perfect wife, to keep a broken family from dissolving entirely. But something had changed. Perhaps it was all those years of silent agony finally breaking through. Or perhaps it was seeing her own story erased repeatedly as Robyn's version took center stage. Whatever the reason, Meri had reached her limit. And this time, she wasn't just walking away, she was stepping into the light. What started as an intimate memoir hidden away for decades became something incendiary. A 6-part tell-all series, raw, emotional, and completely unfiltered. TLC, desperate to salvage what was left of their crumbling franchise, greenlit it immediately. No scripts, no edits. Just Meri and the truth. The premiere landed like a bomb. In a small studio just outside Salt Lake City, Meri sat alone. She looked calm but worn, her posture straight, her voice firm. "They told my story for years," she said. "Now I'm telling it myself." And then the gut blow. Meri spilled that Robyn had negotiated a secret contract with TLC as far back as season 8, a contract that promised her extra compensation for emotionally difficult shows. Those moments in front of her children were subtly woven into Robyn's well-crafted victim story. But now, Meri's agony, painfully genuine, was finally being acknowledged. She described how TLC entirely removed her grief recovery segment from an episode. She had laid herself bare on camera, and it never made the air. In the meantime, Robyn's moments were longer. That, Meri conceded, was when she figured out the entire story was being manipulated. Social media was overdrive. Cuts from her confession went viral on TikTok and Reddit. Fans were stunned, deceived, outraged. The passive woman they once knew had turned into the truth-teller. Audiences weren't merely looking anymore, they were rallying. With that very first confessional, Meri didn't only reclaim her voice, she flipped the whole narrative. And just when it appeared the sister wives' empire was about to implode under the weight of betrayal, scandal, and shattered trust, TLC did something everyone hadn't expected. They turned the reins over to the very women who'd been relegated to the sidelines for years. Meri, Christine, Janelle. They were no longer supporting actors in Kody Brown's downward spin, they were the stars now. And suddenly, just like that, the franchise was revitalized, under a new, bold name. Sister Wives Reclaimed. No mere makeover. A movement, the tone shift, the focus, the power shift, it was unmistakable. These women weren't merely surviving anymore. They were standing up, building businesses, raising their children, and at last, finally, living for themselves. The message could not have been more explicit. This was no longer Kody's show. This was theirs. Next was the billboard. Dead center in the middle of Times Square, looming over the city, stood Meri Brown. Hair whipping in the wind, arms folded, face stern with defiance. The message next to her was simple, unforgettable. The internet exploded. Viewers came flooding back. Ratings shot up. For the first time in years, people weren't tuning in to witness the collapse. They were showing up for the comeback. Meanwhile, Cody disappeared. No more angry monologues on camera, no more long-winded speeches about loyalty and betrayal. His podcast fizzled out within a few episodes. His YouTube channel went dark within a week. Comments were disabled. The public had moved on. And actually, Cody didn't really have anything else to say. Robyn, likewise, fell silent. No media, no public remarks, nothing but silence. Dayton, her son, started therapy and kept a low profile. The house, once abuzz with production teams and hot tension, grew strangely silent. What was the hub of the Brown family dysfunction now seemed like an abandoned relic. Against the silence, the women's voices grew only more distinct. Sister Wives. Reclaimed wasn't so much a new name, it was a statement. Justice had finally been served. After years of existing in the shadow of family politics and constant public scrutiny, Janelle Brown walked into a new beginning. And she didn't just walk in, she took it over. Post-pandemic, Janelle took a firm action, leave the madness behind, and create something entirely for herself. She moved to North Carolina, distant from the mayhem in Flagstaff, and started building the foundation for a brand new beginning, literally. Janelle constructed her own house, a symbol of her resilience, her independence, and refusal to be defined by anyone's decisions. No cameras, no distractions, just the quiet, steady strength of a woman rebuilding on her own. And it didn't end there. Janelle started several business endeavors, diving into wellness coaching and interior design. She wasn't surviving anymore. She was thriving. The last turning point? The official breakup of Coyote Pass, the vast family estate. Once a tangled web of loyalty and power struggles, the property was at last divided in a straightforward fashion. Janelle emerged not only tougher emotionally, but financially set. It was the clean break she'd so long deserved. In 2025, Janelle publicly committed to something that resonated with fans everywhere, clearing out all toxicity from her life. This wasn't a wishy-washy promise or an act of impulse. She did it. She severed the bonds to darkness, established clear boundaries, and devoted herself unequivocally to healing and growth. She's not merely coping with the devastation of a shattered family. She's thriving way beyond it. A woman who took control, established new roots, and created a life that is completely her own. And that level of change? That's not merely inspiring. It's revolutionary. It was strong, sincere, and just what Sister Wives viewers had been wanting. Robyn and Kody's move towards monogamy, previously marketed as a new beginning, a return to emotional normalcy, quickly became a prison. What was promised as a fresh start for their marriage quickly gave way to a managed, isolating life where all things were about them and not much room existed for the big family dynamic. It was initially embraced by viewers, and finally a respite from the emotional turmoil of plural marriage. But over time it became ominously apparent. The truth wasn't serene. It was poisonous. Cody, no longer splitting time between multiple homes, began to tighten his hold. Possessive. Paranoid. More a warden, less a partner. And Robyn, once the preferred wife, appeared to gradually lose the authority she felt she'd gained. Her longtime victim story only grew stronger. She presented herself as misunderstood, a mother holding on to the last fibers of her family, a woman who had given up everything to create something lovely. But beneath the tears and polished words, the fissures were evident, especially when supporters started to catch on to the glaring inconsistency in the way the children were handled. Consider Isabel's surgery, an emotional plot that was greeted with support, even sensitivity, from Cody. But when Dayton, Robyn's own son, struggled visibly, his emotional collapse was minimized, pushed aside, or worse, ignored entirely. The disparity was stark. Why was Isabel's agony put on the center stage, yet Dayton's breakdown glossed over? That double standard rubbed viewers the wrong way. It revealed a secret many had long suspected. Robyn and Kody's relationship wasn't about love. It was about control. And as the audience caught on to the veneer, Robyn's place in the family began to crumble. Her kids, once tight with their stepbrothers and stepsisters from Kody's previous marriages, began to back away. Forced into emotional positions they hadn't asked for, their connections broke. The once tight Brown family was breaking apart at warp speed. Then came the revelation no one saw coming. Robyn finally told the truth. This wasn't the dream she'd struggled so hard to achieve. The life she had so fervently attempted to create, a harmonious monogamous existence, free of mayhem, was a dream. One in which she was instead immersed in isolation, enveloped in quiet, submerged in a world far from the peace she had originally imagined. The cost of having control had grown too high, and the security she believed that monogamy would provide? A mirage. Her confession was chilling, not only for her, but all of us witnessing. It was a haunting reminder. When you hold on too tightly, even love can be lost between your fingers. Monogamy, packaged as the panacea, was the sell, and attempts to possess what was designed to be shared openly, love, family, touch, made them all more shattered than they would have otherwise been.